And welcome back to Talking with Doyle with State Representative Doyle Heffley, the indomitable Hunter Kipe, and Chuck Nichols on the ones and twos. Representative Heffley, what are we talking about today?
Well, I think we're going to follow up a little bit on some of the previous podcasts. We talked about the governor's budget proposal and some of the spending that we've seen in his proposal. And one of our questions was, how are you going to pay for it, right? And he's saying, well, we're not going to, we're going to use surplus dollars and this and that. Well, I think we found out this past week how they're going to pay for it. And this is a proposal, a Democrat, very progressive socialist proposal that has been proposed many times here in the House. And this year, because of the new majority with the Democrats, they're actually looking at this bill, which would increase taxes $6.2 billion on small businesses and working class families across our Commonwealth. So I guess now we know how they plan on pay for it, and that's with a massive tax increase.
And isn't there a connection when Governor Shapiro said that he had a line item for $600 million for economic development? Is this connected to that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that the governor said in his speech, and we talked about it in the last podcast, was he wants to compete with Ohio. He wants to put $600 million in the budget for economic growth and expansion for growth in small businesses. This proposal right now, this House Bill 1773, which is a proposal from some of the progressive members of the State House, would be a 400% increase in taxes on small businesses. A 400% increase. I mean, they talk about proposing a $15 or $21 an hour minimum wage. There aren't going to be any jobs because these small businesses, which are the backbone to economic development and job creation in our Commonwealth, simply are going to be crushed. I mean, no other state has done this for good reason. The governor wants to compete with Ohio. This proposal, we couldn't compete with California. I mean, or France for that matter, in economic development. It's just the fact that they're actually holding hearings and discussing it like this is some kind of rational decision is actually very scary for the taxpayers of the Commonwealth.
Another thing that's scary about it is they're calling it a shift, but it doesn't seem like they're shifting a whole lot of taxes away from anybody, and who actually would benefit from this?
Well, I'll tell you who wouldn't benefit it, and that's the working class families. And what they're saying is, there's a shift from the vulnerable populations. I mean, we've seen what inflation, 8% inflation, has done to those vulnerable populations when they can't afford to buy groceries anymore. The food lines at our food shelters are growing, and it's because of this inflation. This is a over 400% increase in taxes on small businesses. Where are they going to get that money from? A lot of small businesses right now are just functioning on a month-to-month basis. A lot of times these sole proprietors, they're not even taking a paycheck home at the end of the week because they're growing their business and they want their business to survive. Who's going to pay that when you're buying a dozen eggs or a loaf of bread at a small business, or when you're trying to buy commodities that are made locally? You're not going to be able to afford it, and the most vulnerable are going to be the ones that suffer the most.
So it's bad for the people who are working. It's also bad for investors. There's no winner in this.
Yeah, this is a regressive tax proposal, which would punish small businesses, increase their taxes, and those costs would be then passed on to the consumers, and those are the most vulnerable in our society, the low income. And it would really eliminate, you get that first job, and you learn how to work, and you start growing, and then you want to take the next step up. You're going to eliminate the opportunity for people to work. I mean, I don't really understand the rationale for this proposal, but what we can see is the governor thinks that, and the Democratic Party thinks that we can just tax our way to prosperity. No increase in taxes has ever led to prosperity for working class people.
And we're also talking about $6.2 billion of increase. Do we really need to take $6.2 billion out of the pockets of Pennsylvanians? This is $6.2 billion that folks could use on their own with their own conscience.
This is a $6.2 billion tax increase is what this is. This isn't an equitable tax or spreading the wealth. This is a tax increase, $6.2 billion you're going to pull out of the Pennsylvania economy, pull out of the paychecks of working class citizens. And not one dime of it is going to provide property tax relief for anybody. And I can tell you that there's always a way. If you give the Democratic Party $6.2 billion in new taxes, they will spend $9 billion, and they will come back for another tax increase. It's never enough. If we want to grow our economy and we want to create opportunities, the best way is to provide businesses with the opportunities to grow and succeed here, not taking money out of their wallets, taking money out of the investments that they're putting into their business. That's how we grow the economy. That's how we grow state revenue, and we proved it. Right? When I first came into office, we had a $4 billion budget deficit, and there were some very, very tough choices that had to be made at that time. But we held the line on taxes. When Governor Wolf proposed a $3.5 billion tax increase, the budget was delayed for months. We fought him on it. We didn't allow him to raise taxes, and yet at the end of the day, when Wolf left office, and he was a very progressive Democrat, but with the Republican House and Republican Senate, we had over a $5 billion budget surplus. We increased the record levels of funding for schools, for children, for after-school programs, for health care, everything across the state. And we can do that because you can create economic growth and revenue comes into the Commonwealth when businesses prosper, not by taxing people out of their very existence.
But even still, critics are saying, too, that small business owners employ 2.2 million Pennsylvania workers. So if this plan would come into fruition, that means that small businesses are going to have to lay off their workers and people are going to be without jobs. It's going to be a ripple effect if this actually happens.
Yeah, you could see small businesses laying off employees. Maybe they're going to shift to AI. We're already seeing that shift in many industries because of the cost. But yeah, it's definitely going to have an impact on working class families. And we're not just talking about your grocery store. These are small businesses, small machine shops. And some of those employees are making, a good living, maybe $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year working for a small machine shop, if not more. So we're not just talking about, these aren't just entry-level jobs these small businesses are creating. These small businesses are creating family-sustaining jobs. And you're going to tax, a 400% increase. The chamber has come out against this, the PA Chamber. The NFIB, which is the voice of small business, said this would destroy small businesses in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
So if I'm hearing you right, it would destroy small business. It would hurt people at the very bottom who are trying to get started in their career. And it would kill investment and hurt business owners. Does that leave anyone left in Pennsylvania to pay any taxes at all?
No. I mean, and we've shown that if you want to increase revenue coming into the state, creating opportunities for growth, not through tax increases. You can't tax your way to prosperity. And it's funny how it comes about now, a $6.2 billion tax increase. I didn't hear any of this talk last year when the Democrats were running for office. They were going to talk about how they're going to help the working poor, how they're going to help people, how they're going to fund our schools. But yet, this has always been their plan, to raise taxes. It's been their MO from day one, and it's never enough taxes. I mean, when they had the last tax increase, it was supposed to fix everything. But yet, there's a $6.2 billion tax increase. That is a significant amount of money being drawn out of our economy. And I just want to know, where does Josh Shapiro? I mean, this is his party, his proposal. Is this what the Democratic platform is all about? Because it seems to be every time they get control or they get a majority, they want to raise taxes. So, yeah, I mean, it is disheartening, and it's a battle that we'll face out here in Harrisburg. It'll just be the next cycle. Do we want to see economic growth and prosperity through opportunities, or do we want to see socialist progressive programs that are going to tax you out of your home, and you're going to be standing in a bread line at a food pantry to get something to eat?